Good morning. Wait, yes, it is morning still here in Houston, Texas. It's afternoon where our friend John is and Gail. Hey, Kat, good to see you. It's Wednesday. It's the 23rd. Okay, this is weird. It's the 23rd of February. Didn't February just start? This is really strange. I don't. Well, I'll live. Anyway, 23rd of February, 2022. It's the John Lavenia Success Mastermind. Remember that old show, Monty Python's Flying Circus? They always used to pause me. It's Monty Python's Success. No, that's the other show. John Lavenia Success Mastermind. Nice to see you, Gail and Kat and John and all the many thousands tuning in here, there, and Jan, and Daisy shows up right on time. Glad to be with you. I'm Glen Henderson, by the way, in case anyone hadn't yet notified you. And hey, John, I've been in that room that you're sitting in. I've seen this room. Just got back from a fabulous little sort of vacation and threw in a little bit of business. Wait, does that mean I get to write off the trip, write off the cost of the? Time to give the accountant a call. So yeah, just got out of the truck day before yesterday from a road trip from here in Houston all the way to St. Petersburg, Florida. Now that's a drive. It was interesting though. I've done long distance road trips like that before. I've driven to Florida a couple times previously with Paula, and I've driven from here to Nashville, Tennessee, which is not that terribly long. Driven from here all the way up to St. Louis, Missouri, as they say. No, nobody from that state says Missouri. It's Missouri. The show me state. Driven there. I've actually driven. You go west. You could drive hours in Texas and never leave the state. I mean, you could go from border to eastern border, from the eastern border to the western border. You can drive 4 hours, 8, 12 hours in one direction and never leave the state of Texas. How insane is that? It's crazy. But anyway, Austin, San Antonio, out west, those kinds of things. I've been driven as far as Las Vegas, Nevada. Done that 3 times. 23 hours of driving time. Now, the trip to Florida was not quite that long. It's about 15 hours driving time. And for some reason, it wasn't quite as tiring or as burdensome as some long distance drives I've done. Do you like driving? Do you enjoy long distance, like long time road trips? I'm talking about 10, 12, 15, 20 hours of driving time. That's my jam. I actually enjoy it. Maybe I should have been an over the road trucker. Nah. No, I wouldn't want to do it all the time. Like it's one of those things, I guess, you do. It's something you do that you enjoy when it's just a hobby. But if you got to do it for a living, that's a separate question. So I'm not sure how I would do as a full-time trucker. But anyway, it was a great trip. Got to see my good friend John and Shannon, his secret weapon, his better half, Shannon Lavenia. She was a fabulous guest on the TV show Friday. Absolutely fantastic conversation. And their kid, Trinity. I'm telling you, kid's almost as tall as me. It's growing like a weed, this kid. And she's really smart, very sharp, does a lot of different things. Do you know that Trinity Lavenia, 11-year-old Trinity Lavenia, runs 2 businesses? I'm sorry. What was that? I couldn't quite hear. What was that? What was your excuse again that you were talking about? That you can't start what you want to? 11 years old, 2 businesses. I don't want to hear it. Anyway, it was a phenomenal trip. Got to hang out with my homie, John. We sat out on the Okay, they live in large down there in Florida. You know, we sat out, lounged on the lanai after dinner, and puffed on a couple of spectacular cigars, and had ourselves a time. Talked a little business, yeah, talked a little bit of life, but really it was just chilling, relaxing with my dude. And the lady, yeah, like we had a great conversation. Shannon got on with me on Networking Now and talked about the different businesses and ventures that she's got going, helping entrepreneurs to grow their social media presence, expand their network, their contact list, building their businesses using the power of technology aided human connection. You catch that? Technology aided human connections. Really fantastic stuff. Had time for her to share a little bit of her personal story, her personal health journey, which I know because I've been receiving some comments and responses, are very, very inspiring to a lot of people. And so that was really fantastic. Now, the main reason I drove down to Florida, other than happy reunions with my good friends, was for an event involving an organization and a company of my former acquaintance. Some of you have heard me tell the story, heard me share the story, and this brings me to part one of our conversation today. An organization that really served to provide me with the beginnings. Hang on one second. Served to provide me with the beginnings of my music career. Went out on the road with a rock and roll band as lead singer for a band, was on the road for the better part of a year. Now you hear about musicians and bands and groups going out on the road, and you know they'll do shows on the weekend or a couple shows a week, that kind of thing if the schedule's really grueling, you know. A close friend of mine, a guy with whom I'm still close friends to this day. This was back in the early 80s when I went out on the road with these guys. The guy who was the bass player in the band, he and I became good friends, and we're good friends to this day. We sat down one time and counted up all of the shows that we had done over the course of that year. We did 627 shows in a year. That's about 2 a day, just under 2 shows a day on average. So we were going pretty hard. And two of the main things that served me doing that tour, we didn't make any money, by the way. Broke when I started the tour, broke when I finished it. So it wasn't money. There really wasn't much money. And it wasn't about that, really. It was, for me, it was all about the music. It was all about performing, being on stage, being behind a microphone on stage in front of thousands and thousands. There were several of these bands that were kind of supported by the same production company and toured all over North America and everything. And it turns out that if you counted up all the shows that had been done by all the bands, and I did not know this, all the shows that had been done, performed by all the bands across all the towns and cities and states all around North America, I mean, literally everywhere in all 48 continental states plus Canada, we did shows and different events and reached somewhere north of 10 million attendees at our shows over the course of a number of years that this company was in existence. Over 10 million pairs of eyes got to see us and hear us. Not me personally, but you know what I mean. What a reach, what an impact. And, you know, bringing a positive message into the lives of school kids, you know, helping them with a positive attitude and with these kinds of things. And so it was really quite an experience at that time. So I went down to Florida for sort of a reunion with some of these guys, some of the people who were involved. And then as time has gone by, people have gone on and done different things with their lives and have really been able to be many quite successful in the paths that we have chosen and pursued over the years. And it was nice to have these reunions with old friends, catching up with people. Man, it's been too long. How have you been? Blah, blah. Something I noticed. And this is part of the first, as I said, the first half of our conversation today about closing doors. I took note of the fact during the conversations that I had with many people this weekend that a lot of the people that I knew from those days had a very different agenda in being with these bands, being on the road, being on tour, had a very different agenda to mine. Nothing wrong with either side, nothing wrong with their purpose in being part of this organization. Nothing wrong with my purpose. The difference is, for me, it was all, as I said, it was all about music. It was all about performing, all about being on stage, learning to become a professional entertainer. And sort of that the first halting and increasingly successful attempts at honing my craft as a musician, as a singer, as an entertainer. And what I learned is that for a lot of the people that I knew at that time, I'm trying to say this and be kind at the same time, if you know what I mean. We don't think alike anymore. I'll just put it that way. Our memories of what those tours were like, some of the experiences obviously we had in common, but our memories of what each of us went through individually, it became clear to me are very, very different. And I felt, in a way, at the moment I came to this realization, I felt a momentary sense of, I don't know what's the right word, remorse, guilt, a bit of sadness, nostalgia. What's the right word? That we're not really on the same page anymore. Mentally, emotionally, in terms of our life journey. And again, no fault. I wouldn't dare point fingers. We each got out of that experience what we intended, what we meant and were meant to get out of it. The point for me was that I realized that as important as this experience was in my journey, in my growth as a musician, and as much fun as I had being part of this, and as much a learning experience and the impact that we had in a lot of lives, I realized that I have given and received, with regard to this organization, with regard to this group, I have given and received all that there is. And it was time, I noted at the event, I noted with maybe a tinge of sadness that it was time to close the book, time to close that door, time to close that chapter in my life. Now, I say a tinge of sadness because some of the things that we went through together as partners and as teammates, as bandmates, it was almost like, and I don't mean to make any kind of a heroic comparison, it was almost like being in a war zone or going through a war zone together. We're stuck in this situation. We're going into unknown territory, sometimes hostile territory, not physically, but in terms of the receptions that we might receive from audiences and towns that we rolled into, that type of thing, might receive unpleasant receptions. But we were going through this experience together, and we had to stick together. We had to work together as a team. You understand what I mean? And we did it. My God, we did over 600 shows and made quite a difference. And a lot of guys went on to really do some really great things. And I took that experience and parlayed it into a 40-year career as a professional singer and entertainer. Fantastic. Changed my life and shaped the direction of my life from that point. And now, as Paula and I were talking about it after I got back, and now it is time to close that chapter with affection, with gratitude, love for all the people that were involved. And I may yet run into them at some point or other, online or whatever it might be. But you kind of know what I'm saying? That part of my journey is done. I've been hanging on to it for a long time. I was hoping to go down there and have some big time jam sessions and get back on stage and, kind of sort of relive some of the old music days. Not even close. Not even close. Didn't happen. And that was a big part of my realization that our paths have diverged. And that's perfectly fine. It's life. What am I saying? On the way home, driving home 15 hours, I had a chance to think through and process a lot of this realization and this decision that I needed to make to close that door, leave that part of my past behind, if you like. Perfectly okay for you to look back at an experience that you may have had in your past, whether good, bad, or indifferent, whether it really made a positive difference in your life, or whether you feel it was something that sort of damaged you or scarred you. It is perfectly okay to close doors. It is perfectly okay, perfectly cool to close chapters in our lives. This was a big one. This was a big one for me. And now, you know what I feel like? I feel complete with it. I have a sense of completion, a sense of resolution, which wasn't there before. A sense that as I said, you get a sponge, an orange, better analogy. You get an orange and you put it through, you squeeze it with your hands and you can get a certain amount of juice out of it. Then you put it in the orange press and you pull and you get even more juice out of it. And then maybe you run it through the machine of NutriBullet or a Ninja or something and a Vitamix and grind it up, and you get the last little drop of juice and flavor out of that orange. And once you've done that, what do you do with the pulp? What do you do with the peel of the orange, the seeds and all that? What do you do with it? You bin it, as our British or Aussie friends might say. You toss it, you throw it away. You don't hate the orange. There's nothing wrong with the orange. It served its purpose. It gave you juice, delicious juice. And you throw it away and you go get yourself another orange. It was time for me to go get myself another orange. And I did. I have. And I've stepped into a whole new chapter in my life. I think this may be part of the reason why I no longer really feel the need to go and try to rekindle and revive my music career, my career as a singer. it's a realization that I've been coming to over the past several years. I believe I have wrung as much juice as I'm going to get out of that orange. And now in this case, in the case of my music, I may save the peel for a while because it was, my music career has defined me for a lot of my life. And singing is still a major part of who I am. And I'm grateful for it because, you know what? I think in my case, having that music career, which began with that experience back in the early 80s, has given me the ability to be as comfortable in front of a TV camera as I have been my whole life behind a microphone. So benefits have come to me, which I still use in my benefits and skills, which I still use in my life and in my career today. So what is it that you and I might be holding on to from days gone by, which for some reason we're just not quite willing to let go of yet, but that may be in fact holding us back or blocking us from new vistas, new adventures, new blessings? I had to take some time and figure out why I was holding on to that experience from those back in those rock and roll days, holding on to it, hoping for some kind of a renaissance, secretly hoping for some kind of a renaissance. Why was I holding on to that? Well, partly because I love singing so much, still do. I think also partly because I was, for me, using that as an excuse to not fully pursue the goals in front of me right now. I was watching you know what's coming, right? Star Trek episode, The Next Generation. The episode is called Tapestry. And there's a moment in that episode where one character says to another, well, I'd like to talk with you about new opportunities, maybe some new challenges, because I feel I'm capable of so much more than I'm doing now. And the other character says, I'm keeping it generic because this is going to form one of the chapters in my next book. The other character says, hasn't that been the problem all along? You've always had lofty goals, but you've never been willing to do what it takes to achieve them. And I'll tell you, that one cut pretty close to the bone, I can tell you. Maybe I was holding on to those old glory days as an excuse to not fully invest myself in where I am now in my life, in pursuing the goals and the opportunities that are seizing the opportunities that are in front of me now. Because who knows, maybe one day I'll be able to, you see where I'm going with this? I had to close that chapter. I had to. Otherwise, I might never have gotten to the direction where I'm going now. So I don't know what it is for you. Maybe it's nothing. Maybe you have completely made peace with your past. Maybe you have completely released those things, those old memories, those old hopes that may have been holding you back. And if so, well done you. If not, maybe it's time to get rid of the orange peel. Enjoy the juice. Enjoy the memory of the flavor of the juice. Go get yourself a new orange. Speaking of going to get yourself a new orange, one of my favorite books, we talk about closing doors. How about opening a door in place of that, possibilities? One of my favorite books is this one right here, a guy named Mike Hernacki. I'm not even sure this book's in print anymore. Check this out. Can you believe that title? The ultimate secret to getting absolutely everything you want. Does that pretty much lay it on the line or what? The ultimate secret to getting absolutely everything you want. And I'm going to give you a little teaser because I want to really dig into the principle behind this. It's not a book study, John. I'm not trying to work Mandy's side of the street. No. There's a secret. There really is a secret. And guess what? It really works. But I want to give you a little teaser. The one thing you got to do to get absolutely everything you want, to open doors that you didn't even know were there, to bring into your life all manner of possibilities and opportunities and options that you may not have even realized existed. You know, the one thing you got to do is something that you don't actually have to do at all. What the hell are you talking about, man? I'm sorry, not sorry for just dropping that little teaser on you, but we are definitely going to talk about that next Wednesday in our session, which will probably be titled Opening Doors or something. Today, by the way, John, title of today's Gen Sesh, Closing Doors. Closing doors. So, what do you think? What's on your mind? Hey, Ingrid, nice to see you. Greetings. And Missy's here. Missy and the senior officers are here. The captain, the first officer, and the chief medical. Hey, Giovanna, nice to see you. Edward and Virginia. I like a nice full house, a good crew here. What are you thinking about? What does this topic bring to mind for you? Closing doors, leaving things behind from the past that may have been at the time of enormous value and benefit to you. And but at some point you realize it's time to let it go and move on. Virginia, good morning. What's happening, lady?
Hey, you're happening, man. So I just wanted to say I had to learn this with friends in particular, that all friends are not all things to you. You know, some friends are your jamming buddies, you know, your music buddies, and some friends are your drinking buddies, or your go out, work out at the gym buddies or something, and they cannot be everything to all aspects of you. And then I also learned that people are in your life for a period of time, not necessarily from elementary school till you die. You know, I mean, a lot of people have good college friends, high school friends they keep in touch with, but I found that things move, people change, and I'm grateful for the time that they were in my life and that we had together. But I do try to network with a lot of people, and I do try to stay connected, but I don't, some doors that I closed, I don't open again. It's like, okay, I'm totally done with that. There's no need to even continue with that relationship or whatever way. So yeah, it can be in many aspects, you know, businesses we move on, jobs we move on, and friends and acquaintances, sometimes we move on. But as far as your music goes, you know, you might be doing that 10 years from now. All of a sudden, you might be taking up music again with a whole different crowd. So although that crowd is gone that you used to do it with, maybe there's some other area, because it's a gift you have, and your gift is not going to stay buried for the rest of your life.
Excellent point. I'm glad you said that. It's a reminder to me that, you know, as saying good goes, all good and perfect gifts are not from the guys down in Florida. All good and perfect gifts come from above. And yes, there may very well come a time, and I have a feeling it just, you know, when, yeah, I'll be back on stage someplace. It'll be it'll be with a whole different frame of mind. And as you say, maybe before a whole different type of audience. Yeah, let's see what happens. You said something, thank you for that, Virginia. You said something about friends are in your life for a period of time. And then when that time is done, you move on. I heard a saying, we've all heard it, right? And I'll illustrate it this way. If you think back, if you think across your whole life right now, if we think across our whole lives, how many Facebook friends do we have? And I use the air fingers quotes deliberately. How many social media connections, social media acquaintances do we have? Hundreds, thousands, maybe? And I'm not, no value judgment here. No, what am I, the Acme Judgment Company? Not pointing fingers, just illustrating a point. Now, how many of those hundreds, let us say hundreds to thousands of social media connections do we interact with on a regular basis? That is more than, happy birthday and Merry Christmas. How many of the smallest, a subset, a smaller number? Now, how many people does each of us have in our lives who we know personally, in person, face to face, friends, loved ones, family, people with whom we have that kind of a close connection? Even smaller, probably, right? Now, how many people are in your inner circle? You know what I'm talking about. Your ride or die, your closest friends, the people who rely on you and on whom you rely. How many of those do you have? You said something, Virginia, about from childhood. You know how many friends I have from my childhood days? And by childhood, I go back to high school and before. You know how many friends I have from that period of my life? One. And this coming May, I am going, with full approval of my beloved wife, full approval and encouragement of my beloved wife, I'm getting on a plane and I'm flying over to Warsaw, Poland to see to spend a week with my one childhood friend, Mira. Haven't seen her in 20 years. And unfortunately, she's not in the best of health. So I have a sense that I need to go see Mira, if you know what I mean. So I'm going to see. My point, we've all heard the saying, I'm sure. Friends come into our lives for a reason, or a season, or a lifetime. The friends that I had from that period, those old rock and roll days, I think most of them were for a reason, for the purpose of the tour, for the music venture, for a season, for a specified period of time, which I believe just ended recently. And of those days, of those friends, how many friends did I come away with who I believe are friends for a lifetime? One. Kevin Harris, great friend of mine, will be for life. So I guess if I'm understanding your point, Virginia, there's nothing weird about having friends in our lives for a particular period of time, for a particular purpose, a few for the long haul. And that's perfectly cool. That's the way life is. So roll with it. And it applies to friends, relationships, old jobs. I used to go back all the time, way too frequently. I used to actually go back and visit and stop by places where I used to work and say hello to people. How weird is that? Well, I did it. I now know why I did it. It was because every job I've ever had, almost every job I've ever had, ultimately ended up being about the relationships with the people at the job, the people that I knew at the job. So I would go back and see those that I considered to be my friends, people I'd become friendly with on that job. That was why I used to go back. And, maybe that's what I've been doing for these past, I don't know how many years with the old rock and roll thing. Swinging by a place I used to work. Great experiences. At some point, like Virginia so eloquently said, you close the chapter and you move on. And next week, we're going to talk about opening a couple of doors and how to do it. That thing you got to do, which you don't actually have to do. What in the world? Yeah, well, it will all be clear in our next conversation next Wednesday. What else? What do you think about? Yeah. So Ingrid, you've been to Warsaw and Krakow. Now that's interesting. We're gonna be in Warsaw. How far apart are
Far,
Warsaw and Krakow? Like,
far, like
Far.
hours.
Hours.
Poland is huge.
all right, all right.
The food is fantastic.
Oh yeah, I love me some pierogies.
No, forget that. The
Huge fan.
food is fantastic. They're really into flowers, like,
Edible flowers, that type of thing.
yeah, that kind of thing.
Oh, that's
It's
interesting.
Amazing food. Yeah,
Well, here we go.
pierogies are like whatever. I mean, that's just like
You can get
hamburgers, right?
pierogies in Galveston.
Yeah. No, it's incredible. It's a
Okay.
very weird place, though, a very weird country. They're very nationalistic,
Mm-hmm.
super much. And if you don't fit the narrative, that's maybe not great. They
Well-
don't even, what's weird is that they can be grumpy about taking your money. Like, they're not really good at like just liking the tourist. Warsaw is worse for that than Krakow. Krakow is better for that.
Okay.
But the
Well-
food is spectacular. Like, it's amazing, the food.
I'll let you know. Excellent.
fun.
Oh, you know I'm bringing back some pictures and a couple of stories. Thank you, Ingrid. Edible flowers, note to self.
Yeah,
Edible
it's
flowers.
all this delicate, like jellies made of roses and stuff. It's
Ooh,
spectacular. Yeah.
excellent. Looking forward to eating. See, now you got me hungry.
Yeah. Eastern Europe is a good place to be hungry. Starting there. It's amazing.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Some of the best beer I've had in the world was in the Czech Republic.
Yeah.
And remind me sometime. I see your hand. I see your hand, Missy. Remind me sometime to tell you my Bekarovka story. What the heck is a Bekarovka? Bekarovka. I'll tell you my Bekarovka story. No, I won't give it away. I'll let you know. We'll let you wonder about her until next time. Missy, what's happening? What's on your mind, Missy?
You're teasing mercilessly today.
I know. I'm just being mean, just because I can.
Not possible. Well, the Poles have to be nationalistic because they've had their country taken away from them several times. But
I'm
Yeah, the
I'm really
whole
looking
story.
forward to seeing it like up close and personal.
yeah, I bet the sauerkraut's good too. With closing doors or closing chapters, that's really hard for me. I am a very loyal person. I will stand in front of the bus, I will and I've had doors closed in my face when I was sick that I thought these people were, wait a minute, how do you stop a friendship with somebody sick? Wait a minute. And then this group has helped to transform me. And it's not popular with some of the people in my life. And so you talk about ride or die. To me, these are family, high school and since birth. So I can't close the door on this since birth, but she's kind of closed it on me, and very rude conversations. I don't know what the hell is going on. But that is a hard thing when it's closed on you. It's different.
Yeah.
The band group it just kind of organically happened. I'm presuming you weren't in touch every week of your lives. This is every week every day practically since 1958. So when I was a baby, it's how we became friends. So it's really weird. Doesn't seem to like me moving on, doing these new things, and I don't know what to do with that. It sticks to me. And I know, was Linda here? Linda's not here. Linda doesn't hold on to things. Linda Landry. And I'm Italian, we hold on to it for a long time. We'll just, like a dog with a bone. So I don't want to let that go. I don't want to let that leave my life.
Yes.
But you can't force somebody to. She just hung up on me the other day. I said, I'm in a meeting. Can I clear? Boom, hung up on me. Why don't you find out what my meeting is? Why don't you ask what I'm doing? why don't you find out that thing? She doesn't know anything that I'm doing. And so that's a tough one. I'm hoping this book you're showing up, because if I want this back in my life, I'm hoping this book that you're teasing, it's used absolutely everything. That's what it says on the cover.
That's what it says. The ultimate
So-
getting absolutely everything you want.
I want to do the thing I don't have to do to make this work, because it's very important to me. We're talking about 3 generations of, actually 4,
Yeah.
of family relationship. And so can't wait to see that. But yes, the other one was from high school. That's a hard one. I did not think that was the season. And it's because she doesn't like my politics. We don't even talk about politics. So it's very strange. Very weird. But I closed that door. She said something like, she hadn't talked to me in months. I'm like, what's wrong? Because she's had Lyme's disease like 4 times. I said, are you sick again? She said, no. It's not that I'm not going to talk to you ever again, but blah, blah, blah. I said, well, feel free to talk to me never again, because I can't deal with this crap anymore. I've got too much. Excuse my language. And I said, I cherish every memory that we have. We had so much fun. It was a great friendship. Thank you for all of that. It wasn't sarcastic. I really meant that. And I do cherish them still, but I just can't figure it out. That's all. That's about all I had to say.
Yeah.
But
No, I appreciate that. I've been in that situation. I have that loyalty streak too. I think I don't give up friends easily. I don't give up friendships easily. What I do know, what I have learned, and I think all of us here on the call have probably been around the block enough times to know that there are not a lot of things in the universe that are impossible. One of the things that in the universe that I believe is impossible is making someone do something that they don't want to do. Old friend of mine used to say, in the final analysis, people are going to do pretty much exactly what they want to do. And people are going to not do what they don't want to do. And in almost no case, and in almost every case, there is no force in the universe that can compel a person to do something that they do not want to do. Whatever the reason might be, intrinsic, extrinsic, have to do with you, have to do with themselves, whatever. Haven't we all pretty much found that to be true? People are going to do what they want to do. And that's just the way it is. And so those people that you're talking about, that you mentioned, Missy, who for whatever their reason have chosen to break off communication with you, that's what they wanted to do. Sounds to me like that's what they wanted to do. And if and when they want to reconnect with you and start communications with you again, if that's what they want to do at that time, then that's exactly what they will do. I don't know if that sounds harsh. I don't mean it to sound that way. I think that a lot of what we stress about in life are things over which we have absolutely no control. Haven't we also found that to be true in our lives? Most of the time, the things that we worry about are stuff. I have to find this. You got to give me, if you'll give me about 10 seconds, I will find this, this thing. There's a picture that I have. I want, and I'm looking for it because I want to quote it as precisely as I can. It's let's see. My life has been a series of terrible misfortunes, most of which never happened. Do you catch that? going to say it again. My life has been a series of terrible misfortunes, most of which never happened.
Do you mean like worries?
Give that woman a cheroot. We spend way too much time, and you'll pardon, John will have to edit this part of the recording. Too many of us spend way too much time worrying about shit that's never going to happen. And if we knew in advance that it was never going to happen, oh my gosh, how much wasted time would we get back? Wasted time and mental energy would we get back? By not worrying about that stuff, because the vast majority of things that can we just kind of take that as an axiom? Can we just sort of accept that as an axiom? The vast majority of things that we currently worry about are never going to happen. So go live your life. Do what you were going to do anyway. I used to have a saying when I was living in the Middle East. Let's just say that I somehow managed to acquire a mostly undeserved reputation as a bit of a ladies' man. Can I just put it sort of that way? You kind of catch my drift. Mostly undeserved. And it is true that it was mostly undeserved. But what happened was, oh my goodness, the gossip mill. You know the gossip mill. You've heard of the gossip mill. I used to worry all the time. What do they think? What are they, saying about me? I didn't do that. I never even met that woman. That kind of stuff. And not just that, but because I had kind of a unique place in the culture, in the Western groups there as a musician and everything else and other stuff, other things that I was, businesses and everything. Anyway, I decided something. I figured something out. Here's what I figured out. If you do the wrong thing, people are going to talk about you. But if you do the right thing, people are going to talk about you. So do what you want. It's an awkward analogy, but the point is, most of what we worry about, I have these conversations with Paula frequently and I don't believe I'm telling tales out of school. Paula would probably agree. She tends toward a worrywart kind of trend, if you know what I mean. And a lot of the conversations that we have, many of the conversations that we have are about things about which she's concerned. I say, honey, really? I don't think that's very likely. Has it happened yet? No. If we look at it logically, what are the odds of that actually happening? Well, I guess not. Thanks, honey. You always calm me down about these things, she says. Because, that's kind of what I do. I tend, I have a lot of faults, a lot of stuff that I do that I don't do well. One of the things that I'm really good at is not taking on other people's problems and not worrying about stuff, not worrying too much about stuff that's probably never going to happen anyway. Yeah, Michel de Montaigne. I finally found the exact phrase. My life has been full of terrible misfortunes, most of which never happened. So, is the door closing? Do you see the door closing? It's probably because there's a window open someplace. So don't worry about it. Go find the open window. My friends, it's been groovy. Now there's a word you don't hear in everyday conversation. We've had a groovy time today. Looking forward to the next one. By the way, housekeeping, we've got Hospitality Suite right after this. We've got Books for Britain with Mandy. I think that's 4 o'clock Eastern time now, isn't it? Time's changed, time's adjusted somewhat. 4 o'clock Eastern. Somebody check me on that. I don't have the calendar in front of me at the moment from memory. Then we have, oh no, Life and Business Tools has been shifted to Thursdays. So there's that. No networking magic tonight. I know we don't get to hang out this evening, but that's all right. We'll be back. We'll be back first Wednesday in March, which is coming up before you know it. What in the world? Yeah. So anyway, there you go. Had a fantastic time chatting with you. Make it a fabulous day. And we shall see you all again very soon. Have a great one. Bye for now.